we'll be discussing the legal consequences of the construction of a wall in the occupied Palestinian territory. The wall has since been known by many names, including the separation barrier, the security fence, and by the Palestinian people, the apartheid wall.
The wall is just a small facet of the long-running Israeli-Palestinian conflict for control over the territory. At its most heightened periods, the conflict has erupted into an intifada. In Arabic, intifada means tremor, shivering, or shuddering. The Palestinian-Israeli intifadas involved an escalation of armed resistance against occupation in the West Bank and Gaza. The second official intifada began in the year 2000, a period in which there was intense Israeli-Palestinian fighting.
During this time, the Israeli government began the construction of the wall in the West Bank to separate the Israeli side and the Palestinian occupied territory. The wall was mostly built throughout 2004, but plans had been in motion for years. In the 1990s, Prime Minister Rabin proposed separating the Israelis and the Palestinians. In 2002, Prime Minister Sharon approved the plan to begin constructing the wall.
In 2004, the UN General Assembly demanded that Israel stop and reverse the construction of the wall. The US and 8 other countries voted to ask the ICJ for an advisory opinion on the wall. The question before the court was, does the construction of a wall by Israel violate international law? On the Palestinian side, it was argued that the wall impedes the freedom of movement of the Palestinian people, blocking their access to work, health facilities, education, and their ability to attain an adequate standard of living. Additionally, it was argued that the wall changed the demography of the territory because its existence resulted in the displacement of Palestinian people living in the occupied territory. It was argued and later found that this violated Article 49 of the Fourth Geneva Convention and the Hague Convention.
In defense of the wall, the Israeli government said it was needed in order to protect national security. Specifically, the wall was meant to prevent potential Palestinian suicide bombers from entering Israel and attacking civilians. Violence similar to this had occurred many times throughout the Intifada. As American Judge Brugenthal argued in his dissent, the Israeli government said the wall was meant to be temporary. Additionally, Israel had argued that it was willing to provide compensation and services for the losses of Palestinian residents as a result of the wall.
The ICJ ruled in favor of the Palestinians. 90 members voted in favor of the opinion and 74 members abstained. The ruling declared that the wall impedes the liberty of movement of the inhabitants of the occupied territory, as guaranteed under Article 12 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights.
Additionally, it blocked the inhabitants from attaining human rights as guaranteed under the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights and the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child.
The court's ruling created significant legal ramifications. All states party to the Fourth Geneva Convention are under an obligation to ensure Israel complies with international humanitarian law. These states were under an obligation not to recognize the illegal situation resulting from the construction of the wall.
Additionally, the ICJ said violations of the Fourth Geneva Convention and the Hague Convention, due to the change in demography of the Palestinian territory, couldn't be justified by Israel's argument that the wall was required for national security.
Ultimately, the court found that both Israel and Palestine are under an obligation to observe the rules of international humanitarian law. In a separate opinion on the case, Justice Higgins criticized the ICJ for only assessing a small portion of the much larger Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Additionally, she said the ICJ should have explicitly stated what was required for both parties.
More than 10 years after the ruling, the wall is still in existence. Many Israeli groups were against the decision, such as the Anti-Defamation League, an international Jewish non-governmental organization, who rejected the ICJ's ruling, arguing that the outcome was stacked against Israel from the very beginning due to the anti-Israeli sentiments of the court's makeup. This case can raise important questions on whether the ICJ has any real power and influence, as the Israeli government disregarded the ruling and the wall remains intact.